Ozonics Killerwinds podcast back again. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Episode 31.
31.
We're in the 30s.
Let's go.
Yep.
That's so sick.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I was actually mapping out 2024, and by the end of 2024, we'll be at episode 86.
Oh, babe.
Yep. It's crazy how they all start stacking up.
And it's funny how long it actually really, like, it feels like it went really fast, but I got a podcast I listen to, and I feel like I've been listening to them for like 2 years, and they just had their 100th podcast.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
How often do they do an episode?
Now they do it once a week, but I almost wonder when I started they didn't do it every single week. You know what I mean?
All right, so this week we are talking about everything gun hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we can think of about gun hunting. We're going to talk about the differences between, the states that we know, right? I'm being from Iowa, you born and raised in Wisconsin, kind of the differences between what our gun seasons look like, from season dates to methods to everything like that. We're going to talk about using ozonics when you're gun hunting.
Yeah.
Whether that's in a tree stand, in a ground blind, the different methods that you would use ozonics for when you're gun hunting, and how you can use an ozonics to take advantage of that during those gun seasons.
Yep.
We're going to talk about how we feel about gun hunting. I think, it can get, I don't want to say heated. I think that there's inherently kind of an imaginary line in the sand between bow hunters and gun hunters.
Yeah.
And I think we're just going to talk about kind of our own experiences, how we feel about things. And then I think we're going to talk a little bit too about the necessity of gun hunting from a deer management, from a biological perspective.
Yeah.
If you did have it, if you didn't have it, how would it look?
Yeah.
And I don't think that we realized that if we didn't have gun hunting for all states, it would look a lot different.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start with Iowa compared to Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different.
Yeah. I mean, so right off the bat, the big difference between Iowa and Wisconsin is dates, season dates. Iowa, since as long as I can remember, has made it very clear that October and November is pretty much strictly only archery hunting.
Yep.
Basically the rut.
Yes. Yes.
The pre-rut, the rut, the post-rut, the peak of the rut, all of it happens within archery season.
Yeah.
There's not any guns going off.
Except for early muzzleloader.
Early muzzleloader is in, I think that's like,
first part of October, I believe.
Very first part of October, and then the mid-September, they'll do like a youth season. And then youth season runs into early muzz, which also overlaps with the beginning of archery.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is the second half of October, the whole month of November is all archery hunting.
Yep.
You're not hearing guns going off.
No.
And inherently what that has created in the state of Iowa is that the deer have been able to kind of stay within their normal behavior, their normal running activity, and the rut happens.
Yeah. And
obviously, bow hunters, we're out there, and we're trying to do what we can to harvest those animals. But with that said, there's a lot of bow hunters out there, but we're not putting as much pressure, I feel like, is what happens when the guns start going off.
Oh, gosh, no.
And I feel like, as an Iowan, I think I kind of take that for granted.
Yeah.
But then I talk to you, I talk to Zach Rinn in Minnesota, whereas the big thing about Wisconsin, your guys' gun seasons come in mid-November.
Mid-November, yeah.
18th,
19th normally.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah, so you get to just after usually right after the peak of the rut, and all of a sudden then the guns start going off.
Yeah, exactly, which it's crazy because, I mean, a lot of times during gun season, you still see a decent bit of rut activity.
Right.
And it's just wild.
Right.
It's wild to think that you can reach out and kill them at 200 plus yards, you know what I mean? And it just, inherently with a gun, you up your chances, and then you take the chances of being able to kill with a gun, but then killing with a gun during the rut, I mean, man.
Yeah.
you really up your odds.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would be lying to say there hasn't been times that, I mean, look at this year. We've watched bucks sitting, literally standing out in the middle of the cornfield.
Yeah.
Like standing over a doe, just waiting.
Yeah.
Just locked down on her. We watched bucks locked down on the river that it could have been just like, okay, let's go make a move.
Yeah.
180 yards, 300 yards.
Yeah.
Tell me when you're on him.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just keep thinking back to Zach Rinn when we had him on, and he's like, yeah, I got to get this buck killed because gun season's coming in. That was early November, And it's like, think of the hunts that we had
After that,
after that.
I know.
And the difference it would have been if we had a rifle in our hands.
Yeah.
I mean, man.
And I think what you said a minute ago is true, though, in the fact that it's not that the deer won't continue to rut.
Yeah.
And I don't have any scientific backing to say the pressure that it does actually create.
Yeah.
But when you talk to guys like you talk to guys like Zach Wren, guys that are hunting states that have gun seasons that blur into the rut,
Yeah.
they see less deer.
Yeah.
The bucks that they are hunting and the normal rut activity that they see and how they can try to kind of move in on them and start to kind of get within that bubble.
Yeah.
That bubble gets popped and those bucks just kind of, they vanish.
They go everywhere.
Yep. And they just it gets a lot more sporadic.
Oh, yeah.
And it's obviously sporadic in the rut, but it just seems like if you have gun seasons that run into the rut,
Yeah.
it just gets really tricky.
Yeah, it just multiplies deer being on their feet, whether it be just from the noise of the gun or people driving them. It's just it can get pretty crazy for sure.
Well, and I within this conversation, I kind of wish we had somebody from like the Wisconsin DNR or Minnesota DNR to just ask them, why do you guys put the gun seasons over the rut?
Right.
Part of it, I'm assuming here, but I'm assuming that part of what they would say is well, we need to try to get some of these deer killed.
Yeah.
We've got to knock on these populations a bit.
Yeah.
If we don't, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would guess that they're looking and saying, hey, the deer are more on their feet during the rut. There's just more deer activity. So let's bleed some of these rifle seasons into the rut.
Yeah.
And let's kill some of these deer.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's what it means.
Yeah.
Or what they would probably say.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just always been that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
But it just seems like as from the inside looking out or from the outside looking in, what I always hear people say to me is, that's one thing I always got figured out, man. They keep the rut archery only.
Yeah.
They just keep it separated.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I think it makes a heck of a difference.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know?
I think so too.
You know, does that mean that the state of Iowa is maybe managing based more on quality rather than quantity?
Yeah.
And maybe other states are really thinking about the quantity first rather than the quality? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, genetically, there's a lot of good genetics here in the state of Iowa. They've got food plots of thousands of acres of corn and beans everywhere they look.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
You know, from May, June, July, August, September, October, partway into November, and then if a guy doesn't have his combine just perfect, it sits there on the ground from November, December, January, February, March, April until he plows it up again and plants it again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of food around.
Oh yeah.
And that's just the guys that are just normal farmers, not the guys that are putting in food plots to just leave them.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, I hunt on a permission piece that there's the neighbor, he puts a food plot in of just a couple acres of corn and he just leaves it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
You know. So
That's
but
where
yeah.
the deer are gonna be.
So that's, I think, initially right off the bat, the difference between Iowa, Wisconsin, and Iowa and a lot of states is that Iowa, the rut is archery only. They keep the gun season separate.
Yeah.
But the other big difference with Iowa compared to other states, and Iowa has actually changed their law just a little bit here in the last couple of years, is Iowa has always been shotgun only.
Yeah.
Shotguns inherently just don't shoot as far.
Yeah.
You know, when I grew up, and even up until now, shotguns were always like 100 and under type deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you really, man, even if you really spent your time with that gun, you're not shooting at 200 yards.
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so a shotgun can only shoot so far. Whereas in Wisconsin, rifles, is part of the deal.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, it's not 100 and under. It could be a 400 and under.
Yeah.
500 and under.
Yeah.
You know, you can just reach out and touch them a lot farther.
Yeah, and that change came, I've seen both sides of it where it was only shotgun for a while, and then it switched to you can use rifles, and that was the new big wave. Everybody was using rifles, and just from the get-go, I wasn't really sure how I felt about it, just from a safety standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so crazy. I mean, those rifles can just go and go and go. You know what I mean? It can be a little nerve-wracking a little bit because you just really got to take note of everything and everyone that's around you.
Well, and that's why I've always heard why they don't legalize rifle hunting, bolt action, longer range rifle hunting in Iowa is because If you look at the northern half of Iowa, our biggest hill is an overpass.
Yeah.
It is flat.
Yeah.
It is flat, flat, flat. When I was growing up, I had friends that lived kind of out in the country or lived on the edge of town that was right on big timber and stuff. And they would go into town and stay at people's houses,
Yeah.
their mom and dads, or their grandma and grandpas, or whoever it might be, during first shotgun because they didn't want to be home.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid hearing about slugs going through the wall, hitting a window,
Yeah.
hitting a car window.
Yep.
You know, I mean, and that's a shotgun slug.
Yeah.
So when you think about a rifle bullet, when you're shooting at a deer 100 yards, but that bullet can travel another 200, 300, 400 yards before it hits the ground.
Yeah.
That can get really, really sketchy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and again, that's part of the reason in Iowa it's always just been shotgun only because it's just so dang flat.
So flat.
But now here in the last couple of years, they've legalized straight wall cartridges.
Yeah.
Which really what that boils down to is it's opened up the opportunity to a lot of lever action style guns. Henry lever actions have really gotten super popular. I've got one. I've got one for Jet. You know, my brother-in-law's got one. You go into any sporting goods store here, you go into Shields and they've got a whole wall of them.
Yeah.
You go into this gun shop here in town, they've got a whole wall of them.
Yeah.
And so whether that's a 45, a 44 mag, 357, there's just a handful of those straight wall cartridges that guys have really, really keyed in on.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, it's very similar to a shotgun.
Yeah.
It's not going to shoot. I mean, you hear some guys are shooting, we were at the Harrisburg show last year and they had a Henry booth. So I walked over and I'm like, oh man, you're checking them out. It's just kind of fun. And those lever actions are very kind of a nostalgic feel,
Yeah, without a doubt.
It feels like they've been around for 200, 100 years because they have been. And so it's neat to kind of talk to those guys, and you hear those guys talk. They're like, man, these guys that are shooting these 357s 200 yards, like, geez, that's a poke.
Yeah.
That 44 mag that I have, I look at it a lot like a shotgun. It's kind of a 100 and under gun. That's what I've seen with shooting it is, man, I can really, really, really ding them in there at 100.
Yeah.
After that, it starts to get a little trickier.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the other big difference, right? Is that not only just season dates, but just really methods of take.
Yeah.
So this episode is going to air on the Monday of first shotgun season in Iowa. So perfect timing.
Yeah.
But so inherently we're talking about gun hunting, but shotgun hunting or rifle hunting in Wisconsin isn't the only gun hunting we really want to refer to. The other thing we talk about is late muzzleloader hunting.
Yeah.
It's interesting how, and I don't know what you would call it. It's not being hypocritical, I guess, but it's just the way that it's kind of been. There's inherently a line in the sand between bow hunters and gun hunters. Bow hunters, I don't want to say they look down on gun hunters, but there's just a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
But then it's funny because the bow hunters don't really like the gun hunters, but then they leapfrog the gun hunters into late muzzleloader season, then it's okay again.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They don't like gun hunters, but then they like late muzz hunting.
Yeah.
When, if you really, really look at it, late muzz season in Iowa, when I was a kid, was flintlock muzzleloaders, right? But you used to go and see them at rendezvous, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the old ones that you pull the trigger and it came down, and it, a ton of smoke. And then it got to be muzzleloaders that felt like, kind of looked like a rifle, but weren't a rifle, but kind of felt like it, inline muzzleloaders.
Yeah.
And nowadays, and man, I'm gonna say I wish I had one. I'm not knocking it, man. I would love to have one.
Yeah.
You look at what night muzzlers are doing.
Yeah.
Again, now it's back in the day, if you shot 150 yards with a muzzleloader, that was really doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember watching Jim Shockey as a kid on his videos when he would shoot a muzzleloader a couple hundred yards. I was like, whoa, you know, like that's amazing.
Yeah.
Now see these muzzleloaders and these guys are shooting them 200, 300, 400 yards.
Mm-hmm.
There's a kind of a big discussion / argument out there about the ethical nature of muzzleloader hunting in 2023.
Yeah.
Are they just single shot rifles?
Yeah.
That you load differently.
Right.
Right. I mean, and so it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can really reach out. Mm-hmm. So it's funny how bow hunters kind of inherently have a difference of opinion or different perspective, don't like gun hunting, but then they do like late muzz hunting.
Yeah.
because a lot of bow hunters are late muzz hunters.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends that are bow hunters, they don't do gun hunting, but
Right.
then, man, they're counting down the days till late muzz comes.
Yeah.
So,
And I think, too, kind of to piggyback off that a little bit, I think that there's a big group of bow hunters that I wouldn't necessarily say they disagree or, like you said, look down on gun hunters, but I think they kind of mesh into it, and they take the same methods that they're doing bow hunting, and they just go do it with a gun. Mm-hmm. I think where you draw the line is when there's guys that are there's the bow hunters that are cool with the gun hunting, but not how they're doing the gun hunting.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I think that there is for sure a definite line, but I think there's a lot of people that take those same methods from bow hunting and just take it into gun hunting, because that's personally how I am.
yeah.
You know what I mean? When I was bow hunting in Wisconsin growing up, a lot of times I would just do the same thing, but I would just have the gun in my hand.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I 100% agree with that, because look what I do with gun hunting.
Yeah.
I inherently shoot my bow all fall, and then I don't do the gun seasons, and
Yeah.
then I just shoot my bow during late muzz season.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a muzzleloader.
Yeah.
But now, the last couple of years with Jet getting into it, now all of a sudden I'm starting to gun hunt. I youth hunt with a lever action
Yeah.
with Jet. You know, I take him during the youth season. I have some depredation tags that I have.
Yeah.
For the summertime, they're actually called shooting permits,
Yep.
which means that I can use any legal method of take
Yeah.
to shoot deer. Well, with my schedule and the way things worked out, with August the way it was and September the way it was, I didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I was like, I took a rifle during the summer and
Yep.
shot a couple deer.
Yep.
And, you know, I was like, I need to get some deer killed here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like for these shooting permits, and it's just a closer deal with a bow.
Yeah.
And then for me now, again, going back to what you said, now I do second shotgun.
Yeah.
Second shotgun, I'll buy some antlerless tags, and I also take Jet
Yeah.
second shotgun hunting.
Yeah.
So, and I agree. I think that it's like 8 out of 10 gun hunters, and I don't want to say they do it the right way.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But like an ethical and moral way. They're not breaking laws.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and there are a lot of those guys that we all know that are hardcore bow hunters, or maybe they bow hunt, maybe they don't, but they gun hunt like they're bow hunting.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's
Exactly.
great.
Yeah.
So an 8 out of 10 of them are like that, but it's the 2 out of 10 that I think the bow hunters on this side kind of have a problem with, that
Yeah.
are out there, that are driving around, bahaing through fields.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Shooting them out of the truck.
Drinking while they're doing it.
Yep. It's more of a party
Yeah.
rather than hunting.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, and I get it that there's a camaraderie and a social
Exactly.
aspect of hunting. I mean, I enjoy when you and I get to go hunting and we're filming it. There's a camaraderie and there's a fun social part of it being out there. But I feel like the 2 out of 10 guys that are kind of doing it the other way, it gets to be out of control.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
I've seen it, you
Yeah.
know, as a young person, as a kid, being around my friends' dads and grandpas that were doing it for the social side of it.
Yeah.
There was no real rules about when to shoot, how to shoot, where to shoot,
Yeah.
whose property you were on. Just knock them down,
Exactly.
right? Doesn't matter
Yep.
where you hit them,
Yep.
you know? And that bothered me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I was talking to you before this, you know, as a dad myself, I think that when that day comes for Jed, if he wants to go on his own, I really hope he doesn't have to ever see that side
Yeah.
of the gun seasons in Iowa.
Right. Right.
You know, I mean, I'll never forget the vivid memories of walking up on does, you know, in a real bad spot,
Yeah,
right? That
yeah.
you're like, you feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, you look at him, you're like, almost want to tell him you're sorry, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're bleeding out, they're paralyzed, they're gut shot, they're dragging their legs.
Yeah.
I've just seen a lot of bad stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have too. I mean, that's,
You know?
I grew up driving deer.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, ever since I could, walk through a chunk of woods, I
Yep.
was doing that, and that's just something that was really big part of our kind of group, our hunting group. It was always where we're going to drive, who's available to
Yep.
go push some land out and whatnot. And, I mean, I would say our group, we did it right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say right. I mean, but we did it very safe. We were always,
You did it legally.
yeah, exactly. And we were always,
Yeah.
would sit down with everybody. Jimmy's going to be here. Tony's going to be there. Billy's going to be there. know where everybody's at.
Yep.
And be cautious of that the entire time. But it's funny because every single time I sat on a drive, or even when I'm walking through it, I always had that weird, anxious feeling because stuff can go wrong so fast.
Well, dude, I think you got to remember when you're carrying a bow around, the bow, unless you've got it at full draw walking through the woods, which you're not doing, it's not really loaded.
Yeah, exactly.
If you if you load up a shotgun or a rifle, like it's loaded, right? Like you're only a safety click away from it being one way or the other.
Yeah.
And that gun's going to go off. Like you pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I mean, I was joking you did before this. I watched a TikTok video last night of a guy that somehow had his rifle on his backpack and by sheer accident shot his four-wheeler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like with his rifle on his backpack.
Yeah, exactly.
And
which that's scary.
Yeah. And
imagine if there was a little kid just sitting on the four-wheeler.
Well, dude, and I hate to say it, this weekend in Iowa, it just always makes me just cringe.
Yeah.
Like Tatum and I are going and having like a date night on Friday in Des Moines. We're just going out to Des Moines. We're going to go shopping, go to a movie or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, "When do you want to do it?" And I was like, "First shotgun." What are you doing this weekend? You're going to Vegas. You're getting out of town.
Yep.
Because it just, I know on Monday or Tuesday of next week, I'll pull up my phone, I'll hear it on the news, I'll hear it on the radio, and they'll say, Dad shoots his boy shoots his uncle, Grandpa shoots his son.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful.
Oh man, it's just crazy.
Look at a lever action. I love that lever action. When you cock that lever action, the hammer's back.
Yeah.
You literally have to pull the hammer back a little bit, pull the trigger, then let it down to get it to be off fire.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yep.
That is not easy to do. I won't let Jit do it. No. I do it.
No, even when I shot that gun, I'm like,
you're like, show me how I do this.
I didn't even say show me. I said, you just do it. Like I'm not a gun guy at all.
Yes.
Like I've never have been.
It's good to have respect though, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's inherently what happens with a lot of these guys during the gun seasons. They just don't have that respect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's more about like, I always joke, and again, I'm not trying to offend anybody when I say this, but the Iowa shotgun camo is Carhartt brown and blaze orange with a gun in your hand, Coors Light in the other, and a box of shells rolling around in the truck.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, 100%.
There are those guys.
Those
are those guys that do it the right way.
Yeah.
And more power to you, and awesome. And I hope you teach your boy and your friends and everybody how to do it the right way.
Yeah.
And there is a right way or a legal way to drive deer and to push deer and all that stuff and and quote unquote party hunt legally.
Yep.
That's great. But man, I feel like all you hear is the bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And that's where it really stresses me out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It stresses me out for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, with that all said, and again, I'm talking about the consumer shows a lot, but we go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is a huge bow hunting state.
Yeah.
But it's also a huge rifle hunting state.
Yeah.
When you talk to those guys, you ask them, are you a bow hunter, gun hunter? First thing you say, both.
Yeah.
They don't say bow hunting. They don't say rifle. They say both because that's what they do. They do both. Wisconsin, it's a lot like that.
Yeah, 100%.
When we go to Wisconsin, you gun hunter, bow hunter, both.
Well, yeah, I mean, the gun season in Wisconsin is so big.
Well, dude, how many, you had that stat you saw on Facebook. What was it?
Like 600,000.
600,000 tags sold for the first rifle? Or is it called first rifle? Just rifle season?
The 9-day gun season.
Okay, the 9-day gun season, which is rifle hunting.
Yeah.
600,000 tags sold.
And then there was like a stat with it saying that that would be like the 8th largest army in the world.
Yeah.
Which is just insane to think about.
Well, and I think that takes us right into our whole next thing. Sometimes if you haven't already figured it out, I don't agree with gun hunting. It kind of bothers me the way it's done in Iowa. And just, there are a lot of good guys, but then there's a lot of bad guys. Mm-hmm. But, so some of it for me feels kind of unethical. Mm-hmm. But however I feel about it, it's necessary.
Yeah, 100%.
Could you imagine if they didn't have gun seasons in Wisconsin, gun seasons in Iowa?
Man.
At first, it would be amazing because there would be deer running around everywhere.
Yeah.
But then guess what's going to happen after that? Then there's going to be 2 times, 3 times as many deer getting hit on the road.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden when we have a drought year and EHD hits,
yep.
all of a sudden it's going to hit even harder
yep.
on a larger population of deer, a more concentrated population of deer. within this kind of discussion, to play the devil's advocate, whether you like gun hunting or not, it's necessary.
Yeah.
From a biological perspective,
Yeah.
from a deer management perspective,
Yeah.
you have to have gun hunting.
Yeah.
We as bow hunters don't kill enough deer.
Yeah.
I mean, look at how hard I hunt. I hunt really hard.
Yeah.
And I don't pass up opportunity. If it's
Yeah.
brown, it's down.
Yeah.
I don't care. Button buck, doe, yearling, I don't care. Spike, if it's an antlerless deer, I'm going to throw an arrow at it.
Yeah.
And even with that said, I've shot 9.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hunting hard.
Yeah.
Shot 9.
Yeah.
It's just, a group of gun hunters can shoot 9 in a day. Yeah. I mean, how many did you had that one group of buddies, if you don't mind saying, how many did they kill in like a day?
Well, it was, so I talked to them last Friday, so that would be a day less than a week where they've been hunting hard and doing drives and whatnot, and they had shot like 16 deer.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you want to see what gun hunting does in Iowa? Drive over to the Elma Locker the Monday of first shotgun, the Tuesday or Wednesday of first shotgun.
Yeah.
They have a walk-in cooler in there. We actually have video because we dropped off Jet's doe there, or button buck that time. They will have deer stacked from floor to ceiling, front to back. You can't even put another one in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. Another thing, too, thinking about, like, if we didn't have gun hunting, like, can you imagine, like, the crop damage? That would be detrimental to farmers.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. So it's like, whether you like it or not, it's necessary.
Yeah.
And that's where again, I'm kind of like arguing both sides of this.
Yeah.
But that's where, for me, what I always kind of come back to is there's good and bad in everything. We were talking about this earlier today. There's the 20-60-20 rule.
Yeah.
20% over here, just you're not going to agree with, or they're not going to agree with you. They're going to just be against it.
Yep.
20% way on this end are going to be 100% for it, or are going to hate, or going to love you.
Yeah.
But it's about that 60% in the middle.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I try to focus on when I think about gun hunting throughout most states, is the fact that there are guys that are going to do it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But inherently, gun hunting is necessary for the deer population in all these states.
Yep.
If we didn't have gun hunting, where would we be?
Yeah, exactly.
Where would we be? We wouldn't have the unbelievable deer herd that we have in Iowa if it wasn't for gun hunting.
Yeah, from a quality standpoint, for sure.
Yep. Again, we've got to figure out a way to knock some of these populations down year to year.
Yeah.
When you hear about a doe after the first or second year are having twins to triplets, that you can exponentially grow a population very quickly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think it's a necessary, I don't want to say necessary evil, but it's just a necessary part of it.
You're right.
Well, that's even for me, as a younger person, I was always a recurve guy. I shot a recurve bow for a long time and had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And when I went to Colorado and worked as a guide out there, that really opened my eyes to all these different kind of, methods of take. I watched guys come with shotguns, with rifles, with muzzleloaders, inline muzzleloaders, flintlock muzzleloaders, crossbows, recurve bows, self bows, compound bows,
Yeah.
And what you would see with everybody across the board is when they harvested an animal, they were excited.
Yeah, exactly.
They were all excited.
Yep.
And even more than that, I'll never forget, there was a guy that used to work at Ozonics. He had shot a couple moose, and we were talking about moose hunting because I was going to go moose hunting, and he was like, "Well, what are you going to do? Are you going to do it with a gun or a bow? You going to do it with a bow?" And I was like, "Well, I really want to do it with my bow." He's like, "Yeah, I get it." He's like, "I want to tell you something," and he goes, "Whatever you're going to take, just take something that you have a high percentage chance of harvesting something with."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Because you know what?" He goes, "I got a bunch of cool stuff in my house. Shot a couple really good moose." He goes, "When people come over," he goes, "ask me how many times they ask me what I shot it with."
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
No.
So he's like, make sure you're taking it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you're happy with it because nobody else is going to care.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
And that's so true.
Yeah. Well, that's it. The perfect example is Zip is gracious enough to let me use his muzzleloader for late muzzleloader. And I'm super excited.
Yep.
Because I'm going to feel more confident than that with my bow, just because I haven't really shot my bow at a lot of deer, especially in the last 2 years. But I know that with that muzzleloader, I can put the crosshairs on it and have a high percentage chance of doing it. Whereas with you've been shooting your bow all year, you killed a lot of great deer, and you're probably going to end up taking your bow late muzzleloader. You know what I mean? And it's just, I'm not doing I'm not taking the muzzleloader for anybody but myself.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. And I feel like what I saw in Colorado was all these guys just really having a ton of fun doing it.
Yeah.
And so that's what I try to really focus on with the gun seasons is like, you know, and look at Jet.
Yeah.
Jet's perspective in the world that he lives in of hunting, he can't pull a bow back yet.
Yeah.
He's 7 years old.
Yeah.
Believe me, we've tried.
Yeah.
It's not even really about pulling it back, it's about holding it up.
Yeah.
You know, he'll pull it back and then I'll say, okay, hold up for 10 seconds. And about 5 seconds in, he's sitting there, he just can't do it.
Yeah.
And so his world of hunting is gun hunting.
Right.
First two deer that he shot were with a gun.
Yeah.
We took him turkey hunting. He's been turkey hunting 3 years with a shotgun.
Yeah.
And so when I was a kid, that was how I learned too. I went shotgun hunting. The first deer I ever shot was a big doe that probably weighed more than me. I have that picture somewhere. It is a funny picture. It's hung up in the garage. It looks like a monster.
Yeah.
And it was with a 12 gauge shotgun.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's just part of it.
Yeah.
And so there's a right way, wrong way. There's a legal way and a illegal way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to focus on the glass half full and the legal part of all the gun hunting.
Yep.
And I think it is necessary. And, you know, if bow hunters were the offense and gun hunters were the defense, we're on the same team.
Yeah.
We have different jobs
and
we play a different role in the game, but we're all trying to help score and win the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
To bring in a sports analogy.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. 100%.
Sometimes I feel like we look at it like, well, gun hunters, bow hunters are on different teams and we're on different sides of the field here. No. We're both on the same team here. We're all hunters. We should really just try to stick together and find that common ground.
Yeah, and like another thing that I think we should say too is like me and Cole, we both have the same mindset on if you're doing it the right way, great, more power to you.
Yep.
But that's not just with the gun hunters.
Yep.
If there's a bow hunter that's doing the wrong thing, hunting illegally, guess what? We're not for that either.
Exactly.
And just because it's with the bow doesn't make it all right.
I have just as much of a problem with that as I do with the gun hunter guy that's doing it wrong.
Yep.
Because you hear, man, I guess what I hear, what I think you hear on the bow hunting side of things is trespassing.
Trespassing for sure.
That's what you hear.
100%.
And that's happened in the quote unquote hunting industry. Yeah. Right. There's been guys that have been caught trespassing.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there's that. Who is that? There's somebody on social media that they post pictures of guys that if you've seen this guy, let me know.
It's Wisconsin Rut Report. I see it all the time.
And some of the guys that are trespassing, they're flicking off the cameras.
Yeah, one guy's like, I just got pictures of this guy peeing on my tree stand. Now he's flipping me off. If you know this guy, please let me know. I'd like to have a talk with him. It's like, what are you doing?
I don't think there's going to be much talking.
No.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So I think that was just something that we needed to say because it's like, there's bad eggs in both.
You know? Yeah. All right, so let's shift gears. So let's talk a little bit about how you can use ozonics when it comes to gun hunting. I think that before we talk about that, I think we talk a little bit about kind of the strategies or techniques for gun hunting.
Yeah.
A lot of guys know what these are, but I think we'll just go through them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And, right off the bat, what everybody thinks about is driving deer, pushing deer, party hunting.
Yeah.
Pretty easy. So point A, point B, start a line of guys at point A, walking towards point B.
Yeah.
Set
couple standers.
Yep, couple standers, or guys on the other end, whatever you want to call it,
and
push the deer towards the guys on the other end.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it right, if you can create, if there's some sort of way, there's a dog leg or there's a hill or some way that the guys on the other end aren't shooting straight at the guys that are pushing.
Yep.
Or at a certain point, the guys pushing just stop.
Yeah.
And then if the deer run out, great. If they don't, well, you maybe reline up the guys and go at it a different way. You know what I mean? So, so that's the way that most people think of as pushing, driving deer.
Yeah.
But the other thing, a lot like bow hunting, you can sit in tree stands. You can sit on the ground. Or what a lot of guys do is they sit in blinds, whether that's an elevated blind or a ground blind.
Yep.
And that's where I think, where an ozonics can really come in handy is in the blind hunting aspect of it. Because blinds, especially elevated blinds, they don't move.
Yeah.
I mean, you told me some interesting stories about Mike Reed, and you hear some guys that are doing this now that'll build blinds out of like a grain wagon.
Yeah.
Or put blinds on a trailer.
Yeah, just on just the running gear.
Yep. And then they'll just pull that trailer where they want it around the field.
Yep.
But even with that said, once the blind is set, it doesn't really move. And it kind of usually, they kind of stick out.
Yeah.
And so deer are condition learners. And they key in on those blinds. They see them. They know, they hear that blind go bang one time and they start to try to kind of avoid. Or they'll come out on that field and their eyes might play tricks. Their ears sometimes will fool them, but their nose doesn't lie.
Yeah.
So they'll come out and they'll circle downwind.
Yep.
And that's where that ozonics can be so valuable.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, you had a perfect example of this last weekend.
Yep.
So the gun season in Wisconsin is 9 days long.
Yep.
You couldn't make it there for the first part of it. We were still hunting really hard on the weekends.
Yep.
With the bow season rut full swing.
Yep.
So you went home for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
You got to go out with Billy, Willie, Charlie, Vinny, Zippy,
Well, the original plan was
Wally. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Well, the original plan was to have me, Willie, Benny, and Charlie all sit in the same blind, all four of us. But Charlie got sick, so it was just me, Benny, and Willie. And we went and sat in a ground blind and
had already shot a couple deer out of that stand.
Yep. Benny shot a nice buck out of it, and then Willie shot a doe out of it. And we're like, well, we're seeing deer here. Let's just go back to that spot and we'll just cram into the little blind or whatever.
Clown car it.
Yeah, exactly. So us three hunyucks are jam packed in there. Probably should have had like 4 or 5 ozonics rolling, but we only had one. But anyways, yeah, a big mature doe comes out with 2 fawns, and as soon as she stepped out in the field, her eyes were on us.
Just, boom,
Man, she was locked onto us. Like she was like 150 yards away, and Benny's like, "Is she like picking us off right now?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Well, they know when something's off.
Yeah,
they know when something's off. I mean, it's no different than your house. If I went into your house in your apartment and I went up to your picture and those pictures of those deer and I just went, you're gonna walk in there next time. You're like,
whoa.
You're like, well, what happened with there?
Yeah.
And then you're going to stare at it and you're going to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what those deer are doing.
Yep.
They walk out and they look at those blinds and they're like,
whoa.
Well, that wasn't there before.
Yeah, exactly.
That's weird.
Yep. Yeah, and so, like I said, the doe and 2 fawns came out and they just kind of mingled around and they ended up actually coming right in. But it was just funny to watch that mature doe because she was she was so skittish, man. Mm-hmm. So skittish. And I think eventually they were going to try and get downwind of us, but they ended up just crossing in front of us, and Willie made a great shot on her, and that was that. But yeah, we had the ozonics going. I had it hooked up on the blind. And
well, and that's the thing to say about that. What you mentioned a minute ago is you're like, wow, man, there was 3 of us in there. We probably should have had 4 of them going.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about it. You don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
Again, that's the huge advantage of using ozonics in a ground blind.
Yeah.
Is the fact that we're not trying to treat the air in the blind.
Yeah.
We're trying to treat the air leaving the blind. Yeah. And in a ground blind or an elevated blind, it's a controlled a controlled environment. It's a closed environment, right?
Yeah.
Meaning you've got walls, you've got a floor, you got a ceiling.
Yeah.
You can bottleneck where that odor is going out of that blind by creating airflow, letting the air in, letting the air out, and having that ozonics above that window in the downwind side. So it doesn't matter if you've got 2 people eating McDonald's or you've got 3 people in there with a little Mr. Heater. You've got that ozonics on the downwind side.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's where you're trying to get the
100%.
the ozone and the odor to go.
No, yeah. And that was our mindset the whole time. I was kind of saying that as a joke.
No, but I'm just explaining.
It is 100% true, though.
Yeah, just so people understand it.
And that's exactly what we did, too. We had, I want to say we had 3 of the front windows open, and then we closed everything else off, and then I just made just like a little crack in the back window.
Yep.
And then just hung it right out that. Yep. So there was one way the wind was coming in and one small way that it was coming out only.
And we get that a lot from people about, well, how do I do that? Because I've got the windows open in front of me, right? Yeah. And most of the time, if you're sitting in an elevated blind or a ground blind, you're probably sitting with the wind in your face the best you can, like you do a lot of times.
Yep.
The right way, right?
Yep.
Right stand on the right day on the right wind. You got the wind in your face. And that's fine, but try to position that ozonics behind you. Just open a small window and stick that ozonics out, because if you puffed your wind indicator, if you had the windows all closed except for the ones out in front of you, you puffed your wind indicator in the blind, it's just going to kind of hang there.
Yeah.
If you open that window behind you, you puff it, it's just going to go right out the back.
Yep.
And so that's where you can create that airflow.
Yep.
And again, don't silhouette yourself. That can be the tricky part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, try to have that ozonics wherever the odor is going out on the downwind side. But yeah, no, I mean, and that's where I think an ozonics can be really handy in a blind situation is the blinds don't move. They kind of stick out at times. especially if they've been there for a while. The deer start to key in on them.
Yep.
And so to be able to use an ozonics in a blind can really be handy.
Be huge.
The other thing we hear from people is, well, can I use the heater with my ozonics? And the thing I'll say to that is just remember, like we've talked about before, we're not trying to treat the air in the blind.
Yeah.
We're trying to treat the air leaving the blind.
Yep.
The Mr. Heater is trying to treat the air in the blind.
Yeah.
So they can work in unison.
Yeah.
Just remember, the heater is trying to heat up the air in the blind. We're trying to treat the air leaving the blind.
Yeah.
And that's really the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So if you're using them the right way, you should be able to feel the heat real good, and you shouldn't really be able to smell the ozone because it's going out.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
We had the heater running the whole time.
Yeah.
Actually, had to turn it down at one point.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, you see me during turkey season, for second shotgun or, like even during late muzz at times when I just, for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, the deer know where they can come out during first, second shotgun and late muzz where they're not going to get bothered.
Yeah.
Well, what that ends up meaning is they inherently come out in the middle of the field.
Yep.
They come out where they can see everything for a long ways.
Yeah.
So in that, where I hunt means that I don't have trees in those spots.
Yeah.
I maybe have a fence line with a bit of brush. So what I've done the last couple of years is I'll huff my ground blind out there.
Yeah.
But what I've also done is I'll bring a old blanket and I'll put the blanket on the floor to try to quiet it down.
Yeah.
So the snow or the grass just doesn't make near as much noise. Yeah, it's a lot quieter. And then I bring a Mr. Heater.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just that little bit to take that little bit of cut of the cold off.
Oh, it helps.
Man, that makes a ton of difference.
Goes a long ways.
Yeah. And again, I know that can get a little expensive because propane, it's not getting any cheaper.
Yeah.
But man, that sure is nice just to have that little bit of heat just to sit there and just to break up that cold a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, so again, that's where ozonics can really come in handy. And again, if you're gun hunting out of a tree stand or a double stand, a ladder stand, set it up just like you would set it up just like bow hunting.
Yep.
And it can just do its thing and work its magic. Yeah. So I think what we hear a lot of people say when we go to PA and things like that is like, well, I'm shooting the deer at 200 to 300 yards anyway. It's like, well, yeah, I understand that, but let's talk about the deer that you're not seeing. Let's talk about the deer that are coming in behind you, that are coming in on the downwind side.
Yeah.
I know you're shooting the deer out in front of you at 200-300 yards on the upwind side, but let's talk about your downwind side. How many deer are you seeing come from that side?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that's when they usually get pretty quiet,
right?
Because they're not seeing deer on the downwind side.
Exactly.
Those deer, they're not coming out because they're turning and walking away.
Yep.
So that's where it can really be handy in that regard as well.
Know.
So as we kind of wrap up this whole conversation on gun hunting, we're in the last week of the first split of archery.
Yeah.
And Iowa is about to turn into what a lot of the other states have already turned into, kind of the bang is going to start going off.
Yeah.
World War III is going to start.
Yeah.
And the deer are going to get really, really moved around.
Yeah.
They're just not going to be where they've been. Some of the bucks that we have on camera now probably will get harvested or they're just going to disappear.
Yep.
But when we come out on the other side of that, there is a lot to look forward to because, like I said, I will be doing second shotgun with Jet.
Yep.
That's his opportunity with kind of the stuff that I have in the basement. I don't have a muzzler, so we second shotgun hunt.
Yep.
And I have that lever action, and so we're going to second shotgun hunt. I have a couple antlerless second shotgun tags as well.
Yep.
You have some second shotgun antlerless.
Yep.
Which in the state of Iowa, it's pretty cool because you can do the archery season. Then you can also do first or second antlerless if you want. Then you can still get your state tag for muzz.
Yep.
For late muzz.
Yep.
So, or you could have got it for early muzz too.
Yeah.
You'll see guys every once in a while that'll roll the dice on that early muzz if they've got a buck that they've got on a food plot or they know that they've got him coming out.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
And they'll shoot him early muzz. You see that every year. A couple guys shoot a couple cranks. But yeah, so there's still a bunch of really good season left.
Oh yeah.
And I think like you were saying, you borrowing Zip's muzzleloader, I mean, heck, we've got a permission spot that we set a double stand in and we were out there whenever that was the other day and range it over here to the edge of the field where they come out. It's like 115 yards. Range it up here to the corner. It's 206.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is going to be a killer muzz spot
Yeah.
right on a cut cornfield
Yep.
that's plowed under, but still it's just where they're
still in there a lot.
and you see them out there just mingling around, and even when you walk through, you see corn on the ground, so you're like, okay, there's definitely corn that they're finding and picking up.
Yeah.
And geez, it's been colder than I'll get out here. This morning was like 5 degrees.
Yeah.
Getting up into 30s, dropping down into the teens again every night here.
Yep.
So it's definitely getting colder.
Oh yeah.
And the rut's starting to wind down, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it definitely is.
I mean, I'm still seeing bucks chasing does on cameras.
Yeah.
Where it's like doe walks by buck, but it's not the dinosaurs anymore.
No,
It's more, it's like Dink City again.
Yeah, my cameras have been completely dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just nothing really.
Yeah. So I guess the moral of the story is if you are gun hunting, get out there, man. I hope you have some luck.
Be
Hope
safe.
That's the biggest thing. Is just be safe.
Yep.
Be careful. You know what I mean? Be very aware of where you're pointing that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we'll try to do the exact same thing, And I, again, just want to say, I think that we all need, just as gun hunters and bow hunters or late muzz hunters, whatever it is, in all Midwestern states, I think we just need to try to figure out a common ground and stick together.
Yep.
And there's inherently going to be bad apples in every bag.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or bruised ones,
Yeah.
So, but good luck out there.
Yes.
And like I said, first shotgun is right around the corner, open Saturday, and that goes for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then second shot opens the following Saturday. And then here we go.
Yep.
And then it's second shot, Saturday, Sunday, all the next week, the next Saturday, Sunday. And then it's late muzz.
Yep.
Yep.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yep. So it should be good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
A lot of good season left, like you said.
Yep.
So-
And like I said, the thing I get excited about is I'll just keep shooting my bow. Like I do enjoy getting out there late. It's a lot trickier, because you're kind of, you have to really kind of commit to like, okay, I'm hunting this trail.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can be sometimes more frustrating, but man, it can be really fun too.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, heck, the nicest deer I shot with my recurve was during late muzz.
Yeah.
Shot at 7 yards, walked right up.
Yep.
And so when it happens, it can happen.
Oh yeah.
So it can be pretty cool.
Yes.
But, all right. I think we wrap it up. Episode 31 in the books. Thanks for listening. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Good luck out there doing some gun hunting.
See you next week.
I don't have you didn't put a bang noise on the thing, so all I can do is this. Oh. I don't have a gun noise. That just sounded like you were hawking a loogie. America!